Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be baking a cake for my niece's graduation party. These are the flavors of the cakes that I'm going to be baking, and I'm going to be wearing a mask while I'm mixing the ingredients and baking, so I'm going to sound a little muffled. Okay, so I have my mask on, and these are the ingredients that I'm going to be using to bake the cake. The recipe calls for 3 eggs, 1/3 a cup of vegetable oil, and a cup of water, but I'm going to be using an extra 8. So I'm going to put 4 eggs in each box, and I'm going to be substituting the water with milk. And I have also seen other recipes where people have added pudding to their mix, so I'm going to be trying that, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so I'm going to be mixing my classic yellow cake mix now. And here's the milk that I'm going to put instead of the water. And here's a 1/3 of vegetable oil. And I'm going to be adding some pudding, but I'm only going to add about half a bag. And I'm going to be adding 4 eggs instead of 3. And I washed my eggs, so that's why they look wet. So that's 1, 2, and the last one. And I'm going to be washing my hands, and after that I'm going to be mixing my ingredients. I also already put the ingredients for the chocolate fudge, so I will be mixing that after. Okay, so everything's mixed already, and I'm going to be pouring this into my cake pans next, and I'm going to repeat this process twice. So next I'll be pouring it into the cake pans. So I already poured all my cake batter into my pans. Sorry for my pans, they're really old, so that's why they look like that. And I ended up spraying them with this coconut oil. And I ended up pouring the chocolate into a 10-inch, the white into a 8-inch, and the yellow into the 6-inch. So I'm going to bake them at 350 for maybe about 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I already have my 6 cakes completed, and I already evened out the 3 other ones, so now I'm going to even out my last 3. This is probably my flattest cake, so I don't have too much to even out from this one. So I'm going to start making my buttercream for the cake, and my daughter wrote out this recipe for me that she found on allrecipes.com, and I'm going to be making a lot more than this, but I'm going to be replacing half of the butter with vegetable shortening. So I'm going to use half butter, half vegetable shortening, because when it's been really hot in the past and I've used all butter in my buttercream, it has been melting off the cake, and I don't want that to happen tomorrow. I think it's going to be pretty warm tomorrow and I need this cake for tomorrow. So I'm going to start mixing my ingredients next. So this recipe calls for 1/2 cup of butter, but I'm going to be making more than that. So I'm actually going to use 1 cup of butter and 1 cup of vegetable shortening. But right now I'm going to mix my butter first, or I'm going to try to whisk the butter first. Let me see, it seems like it's already soft. So I've already mixed all of my butter. I mixed it for about 4 minutes. And next I'm going to be mixing in my cup of vegetable shortening. I ended up using salted butter for the buttercream. Even though the recipe says to use unsalted, I've always used salted butter and I think it tastes fine. So next I'm going to be blending my vegetable shortening into my butter. Okay, so I've already mixed all of my butter and my vegetable shortening together. And next I'm going to be putting in my 2 cups of sugar. I'm going to put 2 cups of sugar at a time, but I'm going to put a total of 8 cups of sugar because I used 2 cups of 1 cup of butter and 1 cup of vegetable shortening. So I'm going to be adding 8 cups of sugar. So I've added the 2 cups of sugar, but I'm trying to mix it with my spoon so that it doesn't fly everywhere when I start mixing it with the mixer. Okay, so since now my buttercream is very thick, I've mixed all my 8 cups of sugar in here. I'm going to be adding my milk. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of milk, but I'm going to be mixing half of that with a coffee creamer to see if it makes it taste better. So I'm going to mix 2 tablespoons first of milk. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of coffee creamer. I'm using this one. And I actually need more, but I'm going to mix this first because I don't want it to get too thin. So I'm going to mix this. And actually I'm going to mix some of my vanilla in right now. I need 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I thought it was tablespoons, but it's 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm only going to be adding, and I just have vanilla extract. I'm only going to be adding 1.5 right now. And I'm going to be mixing and seeing how that turns out. It's really thick, so I'm going to be adding 2 more tablespoons, actually 1 tablespoon of creamer, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoonful of sugar. Of sugar. I'm going to be adding another 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Oops. be adding another tablespoon of coffee creamer and another tablespoon of milk. Be adding another 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons of milk. I'm not going to add any more coffee creamer. I think that should be. Okay, so I think that's it for my buttercream. I think I like this consistency. And next I'm going to be putting it on my cake. Okay, so now I'm going to be frosting my second layer. Okay, so now I have my first and second layer iced, or I put icing in the middle, so I'm going to stack the 2 layers, and I'm going to measure to see how. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to measure the rest of my straws with the same one. Okay, so this is my last layer to ice in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to stack my last cake. I don't know if this is, oh, that actually fit. Okay, so this is my first layer of buttercream, and I'm going to leave it overnight in my fridge, and tomorrow I'm going to make another batch of buttercream and I'm going to give it a second layer. So for tonight I'm done. I just have to clean up my mess and put this cake away and continue tomorrow morning. I refrigerated my cake last night, and this morning I had to make a new batch of buttercream because I didn't have enough with yesterday's batch, and today the only thing I have left to do is to give it the second coat and decorate it with some flowers. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Okay, so I already put a second coat of buttercream, but since I'm still getting a lot of like little crumbs coming through the cake, I think I'm going to put it in the fridge, and I'm going to give it a really thin coat, a really thin third coat. So I'm going to try to smooth it as best as I can, and then I'm going to be putting it in the fridge once more, and I'm going to be adding a third layer. So I'm going to let this chill for a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start doing my third layer of buttercream. So this is my last layer that I'm going to be icing. And you could still see some of the crumbs coming through, but at this point I gotta get going, so it's not gonna be perfect. And I'm not a professional baker. This is just me trying, just by looking at YouTube and different recipes. I've done a couple of cakes, not that many,